Oh my goodness, just had a right panic there because I started it to go live and it just did a little buffering circle for what felt like my entire life. Hello everyone. Welcome to Lexx Writes You a Book, chapter 4. It's chapter 4. I'm pretty sure it's chapter 4. It is chapter 4. Hi everyone. Um, wasn't sure if today was going to happen. Um, uh, for various personal reasons, but hey, book people, very happy to share with you. I think I've had the greatest day of my life. Can't tell you what's happening. Don't know if you'll ever find out about it, but if I've ever made you happy in any way, shape, or form, have a drink on me tonight because brilliant news in the world of Laura. So it's a happy day. Thank you for the nice earrings comment there, Lady Frag. They were a gift from one of my sisters, made by someone whose name I can't remember, but is a friend of my sister. I'll pop a link in the comments on this for the Etsy because she's just a little independent designer, makes them. I think she's a TA in Somerset and then makes these in her spare time. But they're pretty, aren't they? And they come in lots of different colors. But yeah, it's a good day. It's a good day. And I just saw that Lisa in the chat has had some good news too. So happy good news day on that. Art World, I have 3 siblings. There's loads of us. There's a million of us. I have approximately 1,000 cousins as well. But sorry to be mystical, mystic in my good news sharing, but I can't tell you what. But just hey, it doesn't matter what it was. It is the greatest day of my life. So I'm very happy to have book club today. Anyway, you did, yes, Jude, little brother Ron, as of Lexx Education fame. Oh my God, if you haven't seen the Lexx Education Instagram, by the way, check it out because yesterday I bought the greatest pair of shoes you've ever seen in your life. They are little white trainers and they're covered in little illustrations of chemistry stuff. If any Treasures Pod fans are watching, the National Treasures episode will be late this week due to huge life news happening today. We have not had time to record one, but it will be out this week. I'm a bit flustered, can you tell? So you voted. I gave you a little mini one, a little yes or no, big or small, which do you want? And you voted big. It was close, actually. There were only 5 votes in it. So I'm not going to say that this story is now more democratic than our government, if you're watching this in the UK, but it feels like it is. So there you go. It's gone big. I hope this chapter's all right. Again, I wrote it all and I did mean to give it another look over and then the world exploded. So I haven't had a chance to look at it, but maybe I'll end up editing it on the fly while I'm reading it out to you if it turns out it's really boring. Yeah, you've gone big. Oh, have we got new listeners? Oh, Philippa's new to Lexx Education. Yeah, it's very traumatic. It's very trauma GCSE inducing, but it is fun. Was telling someone about the Winchester Cathedral episode. His name, the comedian on the Winchester Cathedral episode of Treasures Pod was Andrew White. Lovely, lovely Andrew White, who is very well worth looking up if you want a comedian called Andrew White in your life. So there you go. Grab a narrative by the trauma, says SV the Olive. Yeah, well, listen, I thought last chapter might have been a little bit introverted and sad. So I thought, hey, we need some plot in this sadness van. So that's what I've tried to spoon in. It's kind of like it was a little what are they called? Those little puddings that you make a croquembouche out of. Why can I remember the word croquembouche, but not what they're made of? Profiteroles. Is that what they're made of? You know, when you kind of cream into a profiterole. That's what I've tried to do with the plot today. Just injected it full of sexy things. So that's where we're going today. So they went big. Let's jump in, shall we? Yes, thank you, Carol. They are profiteroles. Oh my God, my brain today. Let's go. Chapter 4. So yes, they had a big chat. Harry has taken strides, but now Leah's also on board. I really loved John in the chat was really clamoring for people to love John more. And hey, it's not people's fault if they hated John. He was set up to be a baddie, and then we all had to do a quick about turn. That's what happens with these books. It turns out if you don't plan a plot, you have to change your mind about characters on a dime. So chapter 4. Here we go. Oh, where's my notebook with oh no, I've lost all my accents. There it is. How many times can Laura say, here we go, like we're about to start, and then not here we go, not go here we are. So Viv is Somerset, Harry is Welsh, Florence the dog is a Spaniel. We're in. Okay, chapter 4. Viv nodded sympathetically and looked back to her computer monitor to check rotors. Of course, wait, Viv is Somerset. Of course we can organise that, she said, although her face looked less certain in the light of the screen. It's too important not to. There can't be many bosses in the country this nice, Leah thought to herself, and then said it out loud to Viv. We work in a library, not a surgical theatre, Viv said, smiling. Books are the most important thing in the world, after people. Leah felt her eyes prickling a little bit. She and Harry had stayed up well into the night talking. It felt like it had been months, years maybe, since they'd talked so far beyond the contents of the current day, since they had had big discussions that weren't shopping lists and work schedules, television choices and meal prep. They talked big. Leah's my voice. Alex's books before people in the chat. Yeah, some days. But listen, look, we're here for the chat. You'd better be making more friends than this book is good, if that makes sense, because woof, it's all over the place. Let's jump out then, Leah had offered up. I know you feel stuck, and I'm not saying we can fix that all in one go, but we can at least blow the dust off. He's Welsh. What do you mean? Harry shifted his weight off his left arm where he had been leaning over. God, I feel like somebody's shaken my brain and then let it all settle, and I don't know how any of it connects to itself. What do you mean? Harry shifted his weight off his left arm where he had been leaning over. She watched him shake the blood back down to his hand. Florence had burrowed her head down into the elbow of his other arm, and Leah watched with affection as he tried to get comfortable without disturbing her. Well, look, I know we can't do anything we want all the time, but it's not like we're hand to mouth. Let's go somewhere. Take some time off work and do an adventure. How are we going to pay for it? Harry frowned. We've got the savings account. That's savings, Harry said automatically. And what are we saving for? Leah felt buzzed. Well, the future, he replied limply. What future? If you're sad now, what's the point of building all that up and being sad and getting sadder? Sorry, I don't know if sad is the right word. I don't want to be getting this wrong. He just smiled. Sad seems about right. Small. I feel like a small person. Well, you're not, and we're not. And look, we're lucky people who have savings and don't have to be stuck. So let's get out. So they built a plan. What are you craving? She asked, leaning over the arm of the sofa to grab the notepad that kept all their board game scores in. An adventure that's not frightening, and to go home, and to be far away, somewhere familiar and refreshing. Can you make all of that happen? He had closed his eyes and was laughing to himself a little bit. Leah felt it hit her for the millionth time that evening how different he was being. She was looking at him and thinking, yes, this is Harry, and then wondering who he had been for the previous months, if not this, and how she hadn't noticed him changing. Coy, you don't want much, do you? Okay, let me have a think. An adventure that's not frightening, to go home and to be far away, somewhere familiar and refreshing. She'd gone to bed swirling, a mix of euphoria and fear that all the ideas would seem grey and unrealistic come the morning. But the trick to making a plan realistic was to kick it into action, and the first stop for that was Viv. 3 weeks then. Viv looked at Leah. Leah nodded. Are you okay? Viv asked, and Lia swallowed and blinked away the instant heat across her face and chest. I'm very sad, she said, but I hope we caught it in time. Maybe I'm about to remember that I could be happier too. Viv nodded. Off you go then, she said cheerily, and rubbed a hand briefly on the back of Lia's. Oh, no, I can work today. I don't want to leave you short, and Harry is working anyway. I'm sure we can cope. It's a Wednesday in Taunton Library. It's basically a place for parents at the end of their budget and patience to hide in for free until relief arrives. We can manage with 3 of us. So Leah got on the bus. The bus she had craved for so long and cursed Harry silently for not letting her be on. It smelt of damp and other people and stopped every 15 yards between the library and their suburb. She found herself furious at the bus. How dare you have turned my head away from a man who I love? Stupid bus. She put her key in the door and pushed it open to find Florence bouncing around on the doormat wanting to say hello. This was definitely a better way to come home. Okay, dog ownership, you win this one. Lia? Harry's voice came through from the front room. Oh, there's the first typo. Viv is cool with it, she called back, leaving her keys on the sideboard and kicking shoes off between much requested rubbings of Florence's head. I see that. Harry met her in the doorway, and she took a moment to hold his waist and kiss him in greeting. They held eye contact, and she focused on him, on his face, and tried to make a moment for them. Okay, so, I'll call the guy and see if I can collect the van tonight. She grinned nervously at him. God, I hope it's as nice as it seemed last night. Now, someone in the chat earlier was saying about them getting a van. I was like, have you sneaked a look at the paper? um, yeah, so I'll see if I can collect the van tonight then. God, I hope it's as nice as it seemed last night. Yeah, are we mad? He smiled back, and she had to break eye contact, feeling too close, too exposed. Maybe, but we'll deal with that later. We're sorting out Sad right now. He'd gone back to his desk for one last meeting, and she'd gone upstairs to pack. They got a taxi out that evening to the van and drove it home immediately, having fallen in love with the shabby little bed they barely fit on and the miniature kitchen. What on earth are they doing? Thursday morning, they loaded everything they could possibly assume they needed into their new home and set off, fervently hoping Florence wasn't the car-sick kind of dog. The Brecon Beacons felt right. Home, but new to them. Far away, but not scarily far away. Beautiful, windswept, refreshing, and near enough to a city that if this whole idea was ludicrously less romantic than when they started doing it, they could give up and find a hotel. The van was much less intimidating once it was on a motorway, and Leah was trying to get to grips with it before they, reached the windier roads of Wales, where manoeuvring would be more complicated. That was a tiny burp there, and I do apologise. You have no idea how much of those I edit out of the various podcasts I do, but that one really appeared there. There's this really great place in town that does burgers, and I love them, but the plant meat burger, whatever that is, oh my God, you eat it once and you burp it for the rest of your life. And that is what I'm dealing with today. Go away. Right, so she's having trouble driving. There we go. They listened to loud, nostalgic music and sang and laughed. Leah made sure to keep reaching out for Harry when he took over the driving, and she noticed his hand creeping over hers on the gear stick when she was in the driver's seat. It was nice. Within a few hours of tarmac, they were pulling into a rather bleak-looking field behind a very isolated pub and hooking the van up to an electricity main. Okay, we have a new character now who, when I was writing it, I sort of assumed would be Welsh, what with them being in Wales, but actually, I suppose it's up to you. So, let's have your votes in. We need an accent. Beyond Meat burgers are the best plant burgers. Yeah, I think it's Beyond Meat. It's something like that anyway. Danish. Gosh, how do you do a Danish? I don't even know. Scouse. Yes, I could give that a try. Oh, that's 2 for Scouse. All right. So here is I suppose that's not too. There are lots of Scouse Wales crossover. So he's going to be Scouse. Please don't let him have any long conversations with Harry. Remind me not to write that into next week's episode. Right. So he's going to be Scouse. So Hang on, I've just watched an episode of Bake Off. How does Paul Hollywood talk? This is when I need like a pause on the live stream so that I can go away and say the sentences I need to get into the accent and then come back. Um, right, okay. Um, Toilets are there. It's got a sink. Are you eating with us? No, wait, that went Welsh on the last bit then, didn't it? Toilets are there. It's got a sink. Are you eating with us? Is that Birmingham? That's Birmingham, isn't it? I'm from Liverpool. Are you eating with us? It's horrible, but there you go. I'm not saying it again. 3 times you had. Do your best. The man who owned the pub and field asked. There were questions there. He was a short man with curly hair who looked like he'd been born in a wax jacket. Leah and Harry looked at each other. Yes, Leah said, reading Harry's eyebrow raise. So that was yes to the question of, are you eating with us? Which got a bit lost there in the telling, but hey, there you go. Yes, we'll eat with you. The thought of getting the van back out of the field and finding a supermarket now was not appealing. The landlord left them to it. Oh, thank fuck. I think I only wrote in one line. That's good. the, thought, the thought of them getting the. We've done that line, you stupid bitch. The landlord left them to it, and they pulled on their wellies and marched Florence out into the wilderness for an explore. She stuck by them, clearly not too eager to delve into hedges unknown, and Leah felt very in sync with the dog's priorities. There was rain threatening, and so at the point where Florence started to slow, her joints clearly not as greased as they once were, they headed back to the van and sat in the near silence. We did it, Leah said. We changed the world. Yeah, said Harry. Yeah. I can't believe this time 2 days ago I was preemptively mad at you for being late to pick me up, and now we're in Wales in a van with a dog and no plan. I forgot you could just now I can't remember how to do Welsh. Wait a minute, you're from Wales. Okay. I forgot you could just do different stuff, Harry said. Yeah. There was a companionable silence. I know whenever I do accents, all of the chat starts whizzing along. Yeah, the landlord might die, Kevin. He's certainly going to slyly edit out if there is any more of talking. Right. I forgot you could just do different stuff, Harry said. Yeah. There was a companionable silence while they both breathed it all in. You still want to go for dinner at the pub? Not too late to change that if we want to. No, let's go. I mean, I assume dogs are welcome. They put more music on while they got ready and tramped across the field to the pub. Florence did a very neat piece of business on the way, and Leah had her first experience of scooping a poop, having quite resolutely left the garden ones to Harry so far. Depression or no depression, the dog was his idea, and therefore the poop's his responsibility. She knew she'd have to get over that at some point, though, and yanked a poo bag out of her pocket and got stuck in. Not too bad. Squashy, and one of the only times in her life where warm was repulsive, but not too bad. The drizzle was now coming through on its threats, and so they hurried across to the pub. They were the only ones camping, so the field was dark and quiet, but when they pushed open the heavy wooden pub door, they were pleased to find a good number of people inside, despite 0 cars outside it. Absolutely no one keen to be the designated driver, even on a Thursday. Thank you, Lisa, for the support on the Welsh accent. Uh, Dinner was filling and hearty, with a much better vegetarian option than Leah would have expected. She would have felt guilty for expecting badly of such a remote location, but all her guilt strings were twanging a neglect of Harry note, so she just pushed it away for now. It would find her again in the middle of the night sometime when she desperately wasn't interested in thinking about it. I'm not sure why the chat's gone to Red Dwarf, but it has, and I don't know. Is that from the Scouse thing? Yes. Why is there lots of hand sanitizer? Is that from picking up the poop? I don't know. Laura, just read the story. It was only as the landlord was clearing his throat and standing near their table holding a large ring of keys that Leah looked up from the conversation and noticed that they were the last people left in the pub. Somehow 3 hours had raced by, full of conversation and food and an absolute focus on being in the present. They apologized for not noticing they were holding him up, and he said nothing and helped them to the door. And they heard the bolt scrape on the door as it closed behind them, and they giggled and linked arms, hoping that they never saw him again, Harry's spare hand shining a torch ahead of them. Oh, hang on, that's Leah. Oh no, I feel terrible, that she said convincingly. Oh, no. Right, hang on. Right. You're too giddy. Calm down. Oh, no. I feel terrible. How long did we keep him going for? I don't know. I didn't really notice people leaving. I've not had a night like that where I wasn't thinking about tomorrow in a long time, Leah giggled. I'm not even drunk. I was just fascinated by you. They stopped in the dark and kissed. It was beautiful until Lawrence, who's Lawrence? Until Florence wondered what the stopping was about and jumped up Leah's legs to get her attention. Leah laughed into their kiss and they broke apart, Harry leaning his forehead in to rest it on hers. I love you, he said. I'm sorry I didn't talk to you earlier. It doesn't matter, she said, and they held hands as they made their way through the rain across the mud and back to the van. They stopped outside and Leah removed Florence's lead while Harry unlocked the door. You've got the keys, said Harry as Leah straightened up from removing the lead and realised he hadn't been unlocking the door. Oh, sorry, she said and patted her pockets, listening for the jangle. Nothing. I, I don't think I have. She looked at him. You locked up as we were leaving, didn't you? He patted his pockets to check. Leah felt her stomach sink. Yeah, I did. I locked the van, and then I would have slipped the keys in this pocket along with the... Oh, God. They must have fallen out when I pulled out a dog poo bag. Wasn't there a spare? Yeah, it's in the van. Well, that's not helpful. They stared at each other and then laughed a touch hysterically. Where did she poo? I don't know, somewhere between here and the pub. Oh, God, we're never going to find the keys tonight. It's so dark. Should we go back to the pub? They turned to look across the field, and just as Leah's eyes landed on the building, the last light in the windows went out. They couldn't help but laugh. What are we going to do? Um, Harry looked around. Under the van? What about it? Leah was blank. Do we try and sleep a bit under the van and then seek the keys out in the morning? I mean, I suppose... Oh, God, poor Florence. She needs to stay dry. Um, yeah, okay. I mean, let's try it. Trying to persuade a spaniel to join you in crawling under a van in the pitch black onto damp grass is not easy, but they managed to get her to creep underneath with them and placed her in between them and inside their coats so she could stay as warm as possible, as warm and dry as possible. The poor thing. She's going to wonder what she's got herself into, Leah muttered, stroking Florence's soft head. Harry began to shake with laughter. What? What? Leah asked, trying to make out his face in the dark. I mean, except for the obvious. What? She tried to shift her weight, and her shoulder caught on the underside of the van. This was ridiculous. Those poor people from the dog shelter. They worked so hard to check we were absolutely the right people to take care of her, and it was such a waste of time. That very careful home visit, asking where she'd sleep and where her food and water would be, and the little monkeys here in Wales sleeping under a van in the rain. Are we terrible people? Leah asked. Florence was already asleep, so Leah wasn't terribly worried about her at the moment, but she didn't know enough about dogs to know whether this was going to scar her for life. I don't know, Harry said, but at least I feel vaguely like a person again. So there you go. Oh, I love it. Florence under the machine. Yes. 15 points, Stephen. Well done. So you voted big, which means yes, they disappear off, they buy a camper van, they take sabbaticals, and they go off with Florence. First up, Wales, where they get very drunk in a pub, lose the key to the camper van, and have to sleep underneath it. If you'd said small, they would have taken a week off to redecorate the house, and when clearing out the attic, would have found a letter written by someone who previously lived in the house. And they would have had to have dealt with that. But that didn't happen. None of that exists in the world of the show. So they are now in Wales, underneath their camper van. They've lost the keys. So what happens next morning? Do they find the keys? Your options are yes, no, yes, and something else, or no, but they meet someone. There you go. Yes, no, yes, and something else. No, but they meet someone. So there you go. You get to decide and yeah, get your votes in. I generally writing these on sort of Saturday, Sunday, so that I've got Monday for editing. So yeah, get your votes in before Friday. If you're watching this on catch up, you're very welcome to still vote. You just vote in the comments underneath. And there you go. Thank you so much for coming along, everybody, and everybody for catching up. And you are the best people on planet Earth, and I love you. And don't forget to listen to Lexx Education. Don't forget National Treasures podcast. Don't forget Pivot and Clop actually, and be nice to each other. And yeah, that's everything. Admin done. Any other business? All right. Have a great time, you silly billies, and vote carefully because there is some drama in those votes. So you do you. And I will see you next week. Love you lots. Bye.